Let's please give a big round of applause to Stephanie Edwards. Stephanie?
Valentine's Day, 1975. Ah, my two little children, one is almost 3, the other is almost 1. And they were so adorable in their little red and white striped pajamas, and we were going to have a late breakfast, and it was just really a nice day. My sister had gotten married, my older sister had gotten married on Valentine's Day, and my best friend was getting married the day after Valentine's Day. So it was all this love, hearts, flowers. After that day, I'd never think of Valentine's Day the same way again. The cousin, I always thought it was something off kilter about this cousin. But, it was just my opinion. Nobody else ever felt that way, so I figured, I'd make a big deal out of it. So I just let it go. Well, this cousin had done some work for us with his cousin in our basement. And at 10 o'clock in the morning, he knocked on my door looking for my husband. Well, my husband was employed 8 to 5 every day. And, so I didn't think it was anything strange about it. But, of course, I was a nice person. So, therefore, of course, no one would ever hurt me or my babies. I was wrong. After cousin knocked on the door and I opened the door, cousin put his hands on the door jamb and leaned inside the door. I should have known that was not good. But he said he had to use the bathroom. So I said, oh, okay. Wasn't going to deny anybody potty break. So I had little kids, so I let him come in, and he went in the bathroom. And when he came out, he had a serrated knife in his hand. He had like a steak knife. He immediately picked up my 2-year-old and put the knife to her side, and he asked for money. Well, he thought we had money because we had paid him in cash to do our basement wall. So, I'm sitting here. To this day, there's a small voice inside of you. That small voice gives you good vibes, tells you what to feel happy about, but that small voice also will give you warnings, something to flee, something to protect yourself, something to pay attention to. Well, I didn't listen to that small voice because, after all, I was nice, and who was going to hurt us? So he pulled this knife out on us, and I was thinking, okay, what am I going to do? Well, from somewhere, conversation just started coming to me. To this day, I can't even begin to tell you where all this stuff came from that came out of my mouth that day. And I talk a lot, but this stuff just started pouring out. He said he wanted money, and I said, well, sometimes we put money in my roller basket. And, because then in 75, who didn't roll up their hair? So here I am rummaging through this roller basket, dumping it out. Of course, there's nothing but dirty rollers and bobby pins in it. And I said, well, no money in there. He said, well, what's in the basement? And evidently thought we must have had a stash or something. So he ended up picking up my little baby this time. And we were heading through the kitchen to go to the basement. I don't know why he let me just keep wandering around, and never stopped me, but I'm looking through the kitchen. Is there a rolling pin? Is there a knife? Is there anything I can use as a weapon? Well, he saw me look at the stove. There was hot water boiling for oatmeal. And I looked at the stove, and he looked at me and said, put my baby in front of his face. He said, she's going to get it first if you throw it on me. And I said, I'm not going to throw it on you. I just want to turn it off so we don't burn the house down. And he said, okay. And he proceeded to let me go down the stairs with my older daughter. He came down with the baby, and I took both the kids, sat them on the floor, and I said, play with your toys. And the kids were sitting there playing. They felt that small voice better than I did. And so the kids are playing, and he's getting ready to look for some money. And the phone rings. And I said, I have to answer the phone. That's my husband calling. He's going to know something's wrong if I don't answer this phone. And the guy agreed to let me answer the phone. So I answered the phone, and it really was my husband. That must have been before caller ID or something. I don't know. But I answered the phone, and I said, oh, you don't have to worry about getting the tape deck out because you know, we really don't have the money to do it anyhow. And my husband was saying, what? Are you all right? And I said, no, I'm not, but I can give you that information. He said, oh, is your friend there, somebody there? I said, yeah, but it's not that good. He said, Stephanie, what is the matter? And I said, well, I can go upstairs and get the information for you, but I'm going to have to hang up the phone so I can pick the phone up upstairs. He said, Stephanie, do not hang up the phone. I said, okay, click. And I hung up the phone, and I told him, I've got to go upstairs and get this information. He's going to call my neighbor. And the guy said, okay. And he didn't reach for my children. So I grabbed one baby under each arm. I got up the back steps, and when I got ready to turn in the kitchen, I told him, I'm going to put them down in the living room because they're scared. He said, okay. And so I realized that we had a heavy, heavy door, and there was light around the door, and I realized the door wasn't closed when I let him in. So I picked up the kids. I'm walking through the kitchen, and I turned around and said, I'm going to sit them in the living room because they are scared. He said, okay. And I took off running and screaming. And once I got to the front door, I have no idea how I got out that door. But I opened up the door somehow, and by that time, he's chasing me through the house. He ended up tackling me from the back and knocked me out the door. And I remember it was February now, I'm laying on the porch with my face in the snow, and my oldest daughter is sliding on her belly down towards the edge of the porch. And my little one, in her little pink striped pajamas, was sitting in the ice like a sit and spin. She just spinning all over the place. And I'm laying face down, and I figured by that time he's on my back, and he has this knife out, and he's just sawing in my throat. And I said, I'm going to die if I don't fight. So I'm trying to push the knife away with one hand, and I'm holding on to the railing with another because I didn't want to have him pull me back in the house. And I said, I wasn't doing a good job of fighting, and I had to relax to try to throw him off my back. And he must have thought that I was dead because he jumped up and ran as I relaxed. And so the first thing I did, instead of laying there, I jumped up and picked up the girls, walked in the house and dialed 911. 911 just would never answer. It was so long. I said, oh, what are they going to do? Hung up the phone, picked the kids up again, and walked to my neighbor's house. I knew that she had little kids, was going to take care of my babies because, you know, I was going to have to go to the hospital at that point. So she did take care of the kids, got me to the hospital and everything. The surgeon that reconstructed the inside of my throat and closed it with 15 staples and did the surgery to correct the gash on my shoulder blade. The thing that really hurt was this little cut on my ring finger on my left hand, hurt like nobody's business. And the surgeon said, well, miss is as good as a mile, because his knife wasn't sharp enough to totally separate the jugular. He just nicked it. So and during all this time, all I could think about was I can't die because somebody's got to take care of my kids. You know, who's going to do that? Well, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning when I finally woke up, and I sat straight up in the bed at hospital, and I said, my God, I almost died. What in the world? And I mean, then I just couldn't control it. I cried all night. But the thing is, no one ever arrested this guy for what he did. So he's gotten away, but he taught me the most valuable lesson that day. And that is to never ignore that small voice. That small voice, you know, if it doesn't scream at you, sometimes we don't pay attention to it. But that small voice gives you common sense. That's your common sense. That's your spiritual guide talking to you. You have to remember that. So I have to remember to listen to my small voice. Every time I don't do it, I regret it. So when it's not yelling at you, a whisper is sometimes hard to listen to.